Hello. I wanted to get this video down in relation to the last Tea with Mo that I did, which talks about acceptance and resistance, or more so resistance and acceptance being a part of the same experience, and the message that that encapsulated event can hold for people. And to also notice the process of resistance and notice the process of acceptance, and what is acceptance. As much as we can talk about it and go, yeah, I understand acceptance is the key, and acceptance helps, and we want to come with a loving and accepting perspective. However, we can get lost in the words and the implied or inferred meaning of what acceptance is without actually inquiring into our own experience of what acceptance is. And part of that is also to inquire into our own experience of what resistance is as well. So the Tea with Mo, it goes for about 40 minutes or something. So here's a smaller version that I wanted to share. So the premise here, and once again, this is it's a concept of the mind, a concept of a process, as well as an opportunity to experience it directly, which I think is really important with any type of sharing, teaching, wisdom, insight. Being able to share that with another is for then the other to have their own personal experience of what it is that you're talking about. So in the Tea with Mo, we go through the exercise of that. I won't take you through that exercise, but I can certainly lead you through that in a minor way. So the idea here is that as we're moving through life, we're either moving with life or we're resisting and pushing against it, going, life, you got it wrong today, it should have happened this way, or these were my expectations of the outcome and they didn't happen, so now there's something happening. It could be a sense of resistance. So see how when life is placing things upon your path, people, places, experiences, and you're just in. It's interesting. I'll say the word. I'm in acceptance of it, but we're not really in acceptance of it. We just are with it. So we don't go, I need to accept what's happening to life today. So it's no, hang on, I'm just with it. When I'm not with it, then the beginning of an experience happens, and we then resist it. Now, the interesting thing with resistance is that resistance can be felt in the system. And it's interesting because there could be many things in your life that you're resisting, that you're pushing away, that you are saying, this shouldn't be happening. I want it to happen a different way, or this should be happening, and why isn't it? That sort of thing. We resist people, we resist words. I personally, received feedback from two people on the same day, and it was interesting because they were both 58 years of age, which was the beautiful butterfly. And they were giving me feedback, and I was noticing, and they were giving me feedback in a very, very kind and loving way. There was no malice intended. There was no criticism whatsoever. It's just, here's some feedback. However, I felt resistance like a shield because there was a part of me that felt that I wasn't enough, that I was being criticised. So I started to notice this resistance. Went, oh, hang on, there's resistance. Can I notice that resistance is here and still receive the information? And that was then the key. So resistance is an indicator that you're maybe not in flow with life. That's a way of discussing it, yeah? If you were in flow with life, then you wouldn't need to resist anything or accept it because you're just in flow. The interesting thing with resistance is that, number one, can we be aware of it? Number two, can we inquire into when did this resistance appear? And what is the belief that it is related to? That shouldn't have happened. This person should have done this. I should have done this. I shouldn't have done that. There'll be something that is driving the resistance. And even if you're not aware of the thought, going, well, what was happening around me? What's the environment? So resistance appears. Where is it within the body? So this is part of the meditation that we do. And then where there's resistance, what we find is that there's movement. So if I want to move, if I want to actually, consider this yourself. If I want to move, is there any resistance within my body? So for me to get up, I can push, see how there's resistance. Even for me to stand up, there's resistance that's created again on the floor. And then for my muscles to move, as the bicep contracts, there is a resistance, and then the tricep extends. But then if I also go that way, then the tricep is contracting. So there's a resistance that's being created. So then resistance creates a movement. Now within the movement, that's where the message is. Well, the message is actually in the resistance, then the movement. So now we're starting a dance. We're walking into a door called resistance. So we're flowing with life. We go, oh, I'm resisting something here. I'm just going to duck into this doorway here. And this resistance experience is going to show me the movement. And now I can move towards resistance. I'm going to resist this more. And that's why they say, what you resist persists. So there's the movement. I can move toward resistance, or I can move toward the other door that takes me out of this resistance movement experience to acceptance. And then when I've come to an acceptance, I then step out of the door that I then stood, or the room that I was in for that period of time, encapsulated event, and I step out and go, wow, look at what I found in that room. There's the message. That was really interesting. Okay, I'm back to flowing with life until I then resist something. And I find this really interesting because this seems to be how life is working. Unless you're totally in flow with it. Yeah. And then really check in with that, because am I totally in flow with it, or am I just resisting and I'm creating an avoidance strategy? I'm not resisting anything, but I'm avoiding. Notice that where there's avoidance, there's still movement. So where there's movement, maybe resistance is already present. Something to consider. And the interesting thing is that we find with resistance was created by a thought. Remember, we asked, what was that related to? The same thing goes with acceptance. So how do I come to an acceptance of things? Well, what does acceptance feel like? Where in the body? So right now you could just go, okay, what have I come to an acceptance of in my life, even just recently? How does that feel? Where is it in the body? And this is then part of that meditation that we take through. And then, what is the belief that acceptance is related to? So what I found within myself is that I'll find resistance, it's related to a particular belief, thought. I'll either continue to resist, which takes movement and energy, and I'll invest that into the resisting of it maybe every day or whenever it comes up. And then I'll get to a point where I might start to, rather than moving toward resistance, I move toward acceptance. So I'm getting there, I'm maybe finding this information. Once again, information, it's all learning. And then I go, right, I've come to an acceptance of this through a belief. And so this is something that, we then looked at, is that, okay, where is tension, or where is there resistance within your life, and what is the belief that is driving or holding that resistance? Now, to come to an acceptance, what I found was that I ask a question, and that is, what would I need to believe for this to be okay? What would I need to believe for this to be okay? And what I found is that that's a really good inquiry into then coming to a belief. And once again, this is your belief that makes this okay. It's not mine. I can give you one that works for me, and it might work for you. And we found that in the session that when we inquired into people, I said, oh, this is my belief that helps me accept. Oh, this is my belief that helps me accept. Wow. So you can start to see that this mind thing, this belief thing is very, very powerful. And you can then start to, rather than resist and resist, I think there's still a learning in the resisting, and maybe you don't have to continue to resist longer than you need to. In saying that, everything's perfect, so however long you're in there. If you did want to come to so you could even then say, okay, well, I need to believe this for that to be okay, and then notice your resistance to that belief. So he said, like, oh, no. So then I'm looking and calibrating and fine-tuning. Yeah. Resistance, movement, and then acceptance. So we're flowing with life. We don't need to have an acceptance. We're actually in a state of non-acceptance. And non-acceptance isn't necessarily non-acceptance isn't resistance. Non-acceptance is that I don't need to accept anything, so I can just be with life. I be with life, and then I hit something, or something is placed. I'm going, oh, okay, so now in my neuroception, now in my thought process, oh, something's here. If I step into that doorway, movement is going to be created. And with that movement, then that might generate some information, further information coming to you that can have really wonderful wisdom teachings that can come from it. And then we resist it, we move either forward to resisting or forward to acceptance. And then when we come to the acceptance, we're moving forward to a belief that says that, hey, this is actually okay. And see, now I don't resist it. And then we move until we then hit another log in the stream. And see how logs and debris, they actually start to then create the stream. So it's not that resistance is bad and acceptance is good. It's just resistance is an opportunity to notice what is moving, or where you are moving within you. Just consider that one. Once again, these are my own findings from my own experiences and through the awareness, and then go, okay, well, how do I articulate that? So I hope I've articulated that well enough that it's either created resistance or acceptance, or even both within you. Thank you, everyone.